Greetings! This is Miles coming at you from the editing deck to let you know ahead of time that due to the subject matter of the Voyager episode Death Wish, which is the third episode we'll be talking about, we have chosen to include a content warning at the beginning of the episode concerning suicide ideation and medically assisted euthanasia. If you find this triggering, we completely understand, and we will enclose time codes in the show notes if you want to skip the subject matter and go straight from episode synopsis to us putting it on the list. That said, we hope you enjoy whatever part of the show you choose to listen to. Live long and have a jelly baby.
Get the cheese to sickbay. The doctor should look at it as soon as possible.
It is the way in which we propagate our species. Please demonstrate how this is accomplished. So, what's next? I don't know.
Hi, and welcome to Casual Trek, a Star Trek recap and ranking podcast brought to you by Nerd and Tie and 10 chocolate sundaes. Feeling bad? 10 chocolate sundaes. I'm Charlie Etheridge Nunn, a writer and a fan of Kate Fox's sociology book, Watching the English, which has an amazing introduction about the art of queuing.
I'm Miles Reed-Labato, a science fiction writer, and I'll be honest, I had a lot of trouble finding a Q-related thing for thing I am a fan of.
Not getting into QAnon, then.
God, no. At first, I did consider Quentin Tarantino, but I'm not really a fan of Quentin Tarantino. I'm more an appreciator of his work. Could have said QI, but instead, I am a fan of the way John Pertwee says the word Quisling in the 1970s Doctor Who story Day of the Daleks, because somehow only John Pertwee can deliver the word Quisling with the sheer vehemence that some people would call someone a dickhead.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I guess you could have gone with, is it Quinn from Sliders?
Oh, Quinn from Sliders, who is in Star Trek.
Yes, of course.
Who is also married to another Star Trek actor.
Yeah, wow, getting all the connections here. It's almost like we're slowly developing into slightly less casual people here with this sort of knowledge.
I have not watched Sliders in the longest time, but Sliders was just one of those shows which I kind of associate with like the 90s era of Trek, because like Sliders was either Thursday on BBC Two or Friday on BBC Two.
It was a fun time, Sliders. Like, not a great show, but a fun show, definitely.
Sliders is dumb as fuck.
Yep.
But it's that fun kind of dumb. When it was good, like the first season or two, it's the good kind of dumb as fuck.
Yeah, things are going to get kind of dumb and weird here, as we normally watch 3 stories from different Star Trek shows and rank them on a big list, best to worst. And this episode, we've been taken over by the Q continuum. Yes, we're looking at Q, the ultimate cosmic scamp. Yeah, things going to get a bit strange with that.
I have to call you on that because the greatest cosmic scamp will forever be Doctor Who.
Well, yeah, although he's only been in Star Trek in what, one comic series. And one day I will make you read that, and we'll talk about it here.
Oh my god! Like if you want to pull teeth, it is going to be Star Trek: The Next Generation Doctor Who crossover, Assimilation Squared, or Assimilation 2, whichever. But
it's all right. We can also do Star Trek X-Men and combine Star Trek with both of our like fandom loves.
Man, if we're going to do that, we are going to end up having to do Star Trek Transformers.
Oh my god.
And the thing is, I know people. I know the moment I've said this, I'm going to get a message from either Celeste or Sean wanting in on this madness.
This terrible idea. Okay, great. Before that terrible idea, though, what non-Star Trek thing have you been enjoying since we last spoke?
Okay, I hate to sound like a broke record because I've mentioned this particular franchise twice now, but in a week of recording, Ncuti Gatwa's first full season as the Doctor will start, and I am very excited.
Ooh.
That said, my rewatch of classic Doctor Who from beginning to end has kind of hit a rough patch in the third season of William Hartnell's era because it's had the highest amount of missing episodes. And it's also been just a rough period of the show because it's very clear that with most of your cast having left and your original creator and executive producer also having left, that there's really been no good helm on the wheel. And so it's kind of meandered. But I am 4 stories away from Patrick Troughton, and I'm very excited to get to Patrick Troughton.
Nice.
And I've set myself the task of having finished the Hartnell era by the time Ncuti Gatwa starts, because I feel like pairing a new Doctor with the first new Doctor in my rewatch seems
some nice synchronicity.
Oh, so I'm just really excited to get to original era Mondasian Cybermen, because that first design is the creepiest design, and everything else has been good but not truly terrifying.
Yeah. I remember watching that storyline and thinking, Jesus, what would have kids at the time thought of any of this? Not knowing anything about it ahead of time because it was all brand new there, and must have been fun.
And Charlie, what bizarre adventures have you been getting into?
Why? I mentioned recently on here about becoming a Dragon Ball person, and I only realised, I think, talking with you, that there's more. That there's Dragon Ball Super after Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. So I did not have access in the usual underhanded ways, and I'd heard on the War Rocket Ajax podcast how reasonably priced the Shonen Jump app was, and was like, go on then. So I downloaded it. I've subscribed to the Shonen Jump app, and I then started going through and favoriting a bunch of different things to check out. And before starting Dragon Ball, I read the first volume, like the first storyline from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I'd been recommended it by a few different people, and they weren't lying when they said it was bizarre. I didn't realize it was in history times. I didn't realize it was like 1800s, like ludicrous buff, like Fist of the North Star / Liefeldian dudes, mostly fighting relentlessly. Like initially, this naive kid who is also a giant buff dude, and this other kid who's an usurper to the family, who's also a giant buff dude, who wants to kill the dad and take the inheritance and undermine everything that JoJo does to then take all of this fortune. Only suddenly there's a weird mask and vampires and zombies happen, and there's a point where JoJo's dressed as Sherlock Holmes, but again, he's a giant buff Liefeldian dude. It's very weird, and I've no idea where it's going in the long run. But I've finished the first arc.
And you've kind of missed out, like, one of the more great things about JoJo's Bizarre Adventures is the amount of music references that are in the characters. Like, literally, the villain is called Dio.
Yep.
Have you met the character called Speedwagon?
Oh god, yeah. We've Speedwagon and I go back. Yeah. I started the second story arc today, which featured an old Speedwagon in 1938 New York.
There's they have to change a lot of the names because of licensing reasons. But one of the characters, I think the mentor in the first arc who teaches JoJo Haman is basically, his name is originally Tom Petty, but they've had to change it to Tom Petty,
yes.
Tom Petty.
And there was Zeppeli as well.
Yep.
From Led Zeppelin.
It is kind of awesome in all the insane ways of big buff dudes getting into scraps.
Yeah,
And
it's been a laugh. Like I was getting recommendations of manga to check out, and there were some people recommending some Dragon Ball adjacent feeling things. I was like, I'm not normally a Dragon Ball guy. Reading manga, I generally want the things that veer away from what I get in superheroes. I'm not here for a punch comic most of the time. But when things get really weird and ludicrous, like with Dragon Ball, like with JoJo, that's fine. I'm down with that.
what else have you been recommended?
Oh god, is it Hayu? Like a sports manga one? Because for people recommended me remembered that I'd been asking about sports dramas when I was running the RPG Fight with Spirit. God, what else? I do not have my tablet with me, but yes, I'll tell you afterwards. So I have a great many things listed on there.
I do have to recommend Spy Family.
Yes, that's one of the things I've got on
which is very fun and also very adorable in places and very silly.
there. Good.
Has anyone recommended you Chainsaw Man?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I think Chainsaw Man will be your vibe.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen illustrations for guy with a chainsaw for a head, and yeah, that feels about right.
I would say maybe you should check out One Piece, but the thing is,
There's
and you're already reading all of X-Men.
All of X-Men, at least until 2028 or 2029. All of 2000 AD. I'm just at 1981 now, and yeah, now finishing all of Dragon Ball. So yeah, not many quests. It's fine.
No. As they say in one Doctor Who story, the quest is the quest.
Yeah. Anyway, our current quest here in Casual Trekland is to have a look at some Q-based episodes. So, Miles, our first episode is Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 1, Episode 10, titled Hide and Q. This aired on the 23rd of November, 1987. The teleplay was by C.J. Holland and Gene Roddenberry. The story was by C.J. Holland, although, that's secretly actually Maurice Hurley after Gene rewrote his work so much that he wanted his name taken off of it. And directed by Cliff Bowl. The UK #1 hit was T'Pau, and no, not the Vulcan, although I was shocked. They are named after the Vulcan, with China in Your Hand, and the US had Billy Idol with Moni Moni. So the T'Pau one was weird. The music video was nothing like what it's actually about, which is it's about Frankenstein. Like, basically, don't do a Frankenstein.
Isn't that like the central message of any kind of Frankenstein-based story is don't do a Frankenstein?
Yeah, but, in this case, in music form.
Maybe I should actually check out the music videos for the songs we listened to on the show.
It was interesting seeing this and took away entirely from that message. But it did add to the fact that it feels like T'Pau wants to be very Kate Bush.
Yeah. Like you said Enya, and I get Enya vibes from the music, but from the just from like the song and the singing, it's very Hounds of Love era Kate Bush.
Yeah. And then Billy Idol, where I felt like some of the musical elements of T'Pau had some Enya vibes. This had a couple of little Footloose sounding beats, and I realised I've heard so little Billy Idol as well.
I've actually never seen the only bit of Footloose I've seen is the Kevin Bacon Footloose dance in the warehouse, especially the there is a series of YouTube videos which is either music videos or musical numbers from films with how they would sound in real life.
Oh yeah.
So it's the best one is, I think, either the Mick Jagger David Bowie Live Aid Round the World video, or this where it's Kevin Bacon dancing furiously in an empty warehouse where you just hear creaks and echoes, and and the sound of like his trainers on metal girders. It's kind of funny. I'll put a link in the show notes.
Nice. Okay, so Miles, you have 5 minutes to return us to season 1 of The Next Generation and to tell us what this is all about. Sadly, I can't make a Q flash noise, but Q flash noise!
The Enterprise is en route to the planet of Quadra Sigma because there's been a methane explosion and many of the colonists are trapped in the rubble. Suddenly, Q appears with that kind of flashing, like, grid thing from Encounter at Farpoint and demands that the crew stop what they're doing. Q wants attention, and no one gives Q attention. So Q teleports Riker, Tasha, Geordi, Data, and Worf to a barren wasteland. Captain Picard is stuck on the bridge alone, and nothing seems to be working. On the barren wasteland, Q is now dressed as a Napoleonic-era Grand Marshal, and he invites Riker to sip drinks and indulge in war games. It turns out Q's forces, who are Napoleonic-dressed pigmen, are hunting the crew of the Enterprise, and so the game is to stay alive. Tasha's like, nuh-uh, my contract's good for another 10 episodes. I am staying alive, thank you very much. And Q goes, nuh-uh, and puts Tasha in the penalty box, which is actually the bridge of the Enterprise. If anyone else dies in the game and gets put in the penalty box, Tasha will die several episodes early. You see, Q is testing Riker because apparently, even though Q was actually testing Picard in Encounter at Farpoint, he was actually checking out a little bit of William T. Riker. And he wants to give William T. Riker some career advancement straight into the Q continuum because he thinks that Riker has what it takes to have the super godlike powers of the Q. Picard's like, nah, not gonna work, mate. So Picard and Q have a little wager. Picard's command against Q's belief that Riker will embrace the godlike powers. Picard's like, I trust Will Riker. He's not going to set me wrong. Game on. After some pissing around on the barren planet and the crew almost dying, Riker whisks everyone away. He has the powers of the Q already. My God. Everyone returns to the Enterprise, with the exception of Riker, who's sitting on this planet. Q brings Riker back. Riker's like, I'm good. I don't want the godlike powers. And Q goes, nuh-uh, you do want the godlike powers, and teleports everyone back to the barren planet, this time Picard and Wesley. It does not go well. Worf gets killed, and Wesley gets the point right through the chest. That was definitely cut out of the pre-Watershed broadcast on BBC Two. Riker whisks everyone back to the Enterprise and brings Worf and Wesley back to life. Will they need counseling? Maybe, but Troy's not in this episode, so we'll just kind of, get over the fact that Wesley died. Riker makes a deal with Picard not to use his godlike powers because absolute power will corrupt absolutely. They go down, they make it to Quadra Sigma, but too late. And as they're searching through the wreckage, they find a dead little girl. Data and Beverly go, hey, you have godlike powers now. Can't you do something? And Riker's like, no, I promised Picard we just have to let the girl die for, moral reasons. Riker's pissed at Picard for making him do this. And so he's just, believes that he's actually better than Picard. They're equals. He starts referring to him as John Luke.
Oof. Who would do that? Or even call him JL or something like that.
Now, he believes to be embracing his powers, and why shouldn't he? He has the powers of a god! He decides to give the bridge crew what they want as a wager to believe that his powers are good and useful. And he's not going godlike mad. And so he turns Wesley from Will Wheaton to budget Brendan Fraser. Let's be honest. That's apparently what they think Will Wheaton's gonna look like in 10 years. No.
Oh, and that's time. Yeah, with what random like generic hunk with no speaking lines of his own.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
looks like a JoJo character.
Yeah, actually. Right. So, using my Q-like powers, I will grant you extra time, starting now.
Your Q kind. And, Riker then offers to make Data human, and Data's like, "Nuh-uh, fam. I appreciate what you're trying to do, but if you turn me into a human, deep down, I'll know that it's not real and it's just an illusion, and I won't be satisfied." He gives Geordi LaForge his eyesight back, and we get to see LeVar Burton's incredibly beautifully expressive eyes. And again, it's kind of a sin that we don't see those eyes more often in the show. And after leering at Tasha and calling that she's all beautifully ever imagined, he too rejects his restored eyesight. Worf gets given a Klingon sex friend, and which leads to possibly the best line delivery in this episode that isn't Patrick Stewart getting to quote Hamlet. And Worf, now kind of just awkward that everyone's seen his sexual fantasies just kind of displayed on the bridge for everyone to watch. Hey, Riker, there are kids present, even though you've aged the kid 10 years. And Worf's like, "No, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but this is a culture that's alien to me. I refuse this." And once more refuses Riker's gift. And Wesley, too, he wants to grow up, but he wants to do it the regular way and grow up into older Will Wheaton. Riker realizes that Picard knew all along that the crew would reject Riker's gifts, and so Riker, too, realizes that he doesn't want to be a god. He wants to be human. And Q was like, "All right, okay, fine. I'm taking back my godlike powers, and I am never going to treat Riker seriously again. All that attention that we thought that the Q was going to get, that's off. We're just going to annoy Jean-Luc Picard from here until 2022."
Yeah.
Yeah. And everything's back to normal. But that little girl definitely is still dead, so that Picard can get a moral smug point over Riker. What a douche.
Wow. That's 2 minutes and 45 over. But yeah, it did feel like the varied wishes granted by Riker did need to be done. Did need to be covered. Because, yeah, those were some odd...
Charlie, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Is this sex?
I mean, this is podcasting.
I think
so
that Worf's shouting out of "This is sex."
Oh my god!
Was the best line read in the episode that wasn't Patrick Stewart?
Yeah. Oh dear. Yeah. Poor Worf having that displayed in front of everyone. So it should be between him and the holodeck.
The sad thing is, watching Worf in this episode, Tasha's death just actually gives Worf stuff to do.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know. Tasha and Worf felt like a slight, not quite duplication. Obviously, they had one or two character traits apiece, but screen time wise, what are you doing with both of these people?
Because they are both the people who are gonna pull a phaser and jump over the bridge. Tasha almost face planting in hers.
Oh, that'd be unfortunate.
That would be awkward.
Yeah.
If that happened, you'd have to get yourself killed by a oil slick monster at some point.
Yeah. Oh dear. Yeah, we've still got that to cover at some point.
We do. And okay, so Riker didn't give any gifts to Beverly Crusher or Tasha Yar.
Yeah.
So just to prove that even when given the godlike omnipotence of the Q, Riker still doesn't know what women want.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's probably best, especially with all of the interfering that apparently happened with Gene Roddenberry kind
Yeah.
of doing stuff to the script. It's probably best we didn't see the 1987 Gene version of what these women actually wanted.
I would say like we could play a game on that, but like knowing Gene Roddenberry was like no, would get demonetized, and we're already making zero money on this podcast.
Yes, yeah. Which, hey, support us on Ko-fi.
On Patreon.
Yes.
Right, Ko-fi.
It's right. At some point we will, I don't know, we'll have to sort out a Patreon or something. But yes.
This is actually one of the first episodes of TNG I watched when it was originally on BBC Two, because I remember people dying on the war on the desolate planet. I don't remember if Wesley getting stabbed through the chest was so graphically shown or if that was cut out. I remember the bits with Wesley getting aged up and LaForge getting his eyesight back. And I would have been like 7 or 8 when this would have aired in the UK. So I would definitely be too young to understand what's going on.
Yeah. I've no idea when I saw this, but this is one of those episodes that just sticks in the memory. So much of season 1 is gone from, immediately gets out of the cache. But things like Justice and obviously Encounter at Farpoint, those stick around, and this is one of those ones. Like, we've seen Q in the pilot, but this is where we start to see this shit is his deal. This is the kind of thing he's going to keep pulling with people. And for me, the big memory is that the Decipher's Star Trek collectible card game had a card which was Wesley Gets the Point from their Q expansion, which had some slightly weirder cards. And it was just a photo up close of the stabbing. Like, not even all of Wesley, just the torso, knife, like, getting bayoneted through. And if Wesley Crusher is on the board, you kill him and you score a point. Just one. And that's it. And this is a game where I think, was it 100 points you're after? Something like that. So a single point was nigh insignificant, but it was there just for the sake of it.
Has season 1 and season 7 been the eras of TNG that we've watched the most for this show?
Do
you have a season by season?
Let's see. So we've seen 4 episodes of season 1, 3 of season 2, 3 of season 3, 2 of season 4, 3 of season 5, 1 of season 6, and 3 of season 7.
Okay.
So season 1 is our most seen.
There is just something I love about season 1 of TNG.
Yeah,
I did try to rewatch season 1 during quarantine, during lockdown, when I wasn't designated an essential worker because I work for a coffee company. So I did try to watch through TNG. I didn't make it through season 1 because I don't know, I just kind of fell off. But there is something so incredibly earnest about how season 1 works, coupled with the fact that season 1 is also trying to definitely push boundaries, because there's a lot more violence. There's a lot more kind of goopy effect shots. Like, we will get to Conspiracy and the melty slug guy. And in this episode, they not only kill a kid once, they kill a kid twice, but one gets better.
Yeah, it's fascinating because it looks hokey. Like, it is not. No one is giving their A game. in this, but there is something very charming about it all. One of the things I had to, and you can't screenshot watching something on a tablet from the Paramount Plus app. So I had to take a photo with my phone of a paused moment in this episode and send it to you, because it was around. It's the hallways of the Enterprise looking the most like a 1980s office. I've been in near derelict offices that look like this still, with that kind of diagonal herringbone pattern, but all in greys and whites. And
Definitely
of course, then
like a marble effect.
yeah, it was so fascinatingly 80s. Like, all you need to do is remove those archways and the sliding doors, and you could have an office in a 1987 drama,
or a secondary school computer lab.
Yes, yeah, definitely that kind of thing. I mean, as someone that's a little older, it would have been business studies, as we didn't have like proper IT computer things until I was in sixth form. But yeah.
Oh yeah, you are slightly older. We had like a computer lab built on to one of the blocks in Stringer, and it had carpet, it had swirly chairs, and it had a lot of 90s computers where we got to fuck around with MS Paint.
Nice. Yeah, we had like just a bigger classroom than usual for our business studies stuff. I think originally we had a home ec room, and then we had a bank of computers. And when the kids realised they could take the mouse balls out, they had weapons to attack the teacher with.
Ah, yes, of course. You went to that school.
Yeah. In the end, the teacher from that class got booted out because he was caught at smoking with the kids in the loos. So yeah.
Yeah.
So hiding Q.
Hiding Q. The Napoleonic pig soldiers feels a lot more like a Doctor Who kind of thing than a Star Trek thing.
Is that just because the anachronistic clothes and the weird face?
I would say so. I know we get a few alien Nazis at some point in Voyager.
I think
but
Enterprise as well.
Yeah, but I doubt there is something about like anachronistic clothing on an alien, which just kind of screams Doctor Who to me.
Yes.
Maybe because it is that kind of that hokiness, which you don't really expect from Star Trek, which especially TNG, which is always very kind of po-faced about how hokey it is, whereas Doctor Who just kind of embraces hoke.
There is something appealing about that look. I was surprised that they weren't any other kind of alien, but I don't know, it feels a bit more apt almost for this to go, Q's just got a planet, it's their standard planet hell backdrop thing. I meant to have a look to see if those were the same sort of rocks from episodes like The Cage, because it felt like that kind of thing, or the old Salt Vampire one. Worf bouncing around all the rocks. Yes, the man trap. Worf was running around the way I imagined some of my players exploring places in like early D&D games that we had, where it's like, oh, what's over there? Oh, there might be something. Okay, calm down. I know you're very excited, Worf. You get to do all of this, and you're normally just stuck at the console.
Worf just wants to run around. He just wants to get his cardio in.
Yeah. Maybe he's got the zoomies or something.
Oh God, Worf with the zoomies. That just sounds horrendous.
Yeah.
Do you think Worf's hair just kind of floofs out when it gets wet?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, in the first season, his hair's a bit odd, but the more the show goes on,
I swear his head is bigger in the first season compared to the rest of his body. Which from season 2, like his head feels too. You know what I mean?
It's a bit too made up. I wonder if they went, this is a lot of work. Let's define it more, but make it a bit less all-consuming effort-wise.
And maybe like we'll give you like a padded suit in like season 2, so it looks like you have more of a bulk.
Yeah, that kind of thing. It's fun seeing them get to play around on a planet like that, and unfortunately, they're not great against the orcs.
No, I love how they expected the orcs to have actual bayonets, and nope, they have laser bayonets.
Well, yeah. I mean, Q can make any old thing. So, would he make it fair? No.
No.
Do you know what is fair, however, and balanced?
American democracy.
Ha! My God, no.
Is it? I think I know this one. Is it the British parliamentary system?
Mars, you're killing me here.
We're fucked.
We are fucked. Yes. No. What won't destroy government and civilization is our big list of best to worst of Star Trek episodes, and I was going to say that's a guarantee. It's unlikely, really, to cause the downfall of society, but we currently stand at 105 episodes and movies on our big list. We've got Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan at the first place. We have, let's see, in 53 we have Reflections from Lower Decks, which has a bit of a space race of the mind between Rutherford and a slightly younger, shittier Rutherford. And then finally, down at the bottom in spot number 105, we have Strange New Worlds with Lift Us Where Suffering Cannot Reach, which also kills a child. But, as part of a systemic thing rather than an accident.
I am okay with the child death as presented in this story.
That's good to know.
That makes me sound like a freak, I know.
I'm alright with this child dying. They were probably a bad one.
You know what? It's strange. We have yet to watch the second pilot for TOS, where No Man Has Gone Before. Another story where a member of the Enterprise crew gets given godlike powers and doesn't take it well. Although I feel like this entire thing would have been sorted out if Picard had just slapped Riker in the face and just went, no. No, you've had the lessons. We all know what this kind of shit's like. Don't do it. I feel like a human being given godlike powers and then being proved to be inferior to humans because I guess when you have godlike powers, you forget how punching works. Is kind of a trope with Roddenberry and I guess in Star Trek, because there's that one Lower Decks episode when Ransom, aka Quinn from Sliders, gets given godlike powers and T'Ana has to find a big boulder to drop on him.
Yeah, I remember watching The Captain's Chair and someone was saying about how Roddenberry kept going back to the same well of God confronts humans and is eventually loses against them, that kind of thing. And that does seem to be a fairly common theme. And hey, this is Q, so yeah, it's the toy to do all of this with. So I'm guessing this is going to be better than Encounter at Farpoint.
Although, yes, I believe so, but I will say that Wesley Gets the Point may not be as big a band name as Grappler Zorn.
No.
I don't know, I think you could probably have some weird, electronic kind of ghost box style album band called Wesley Gets the Point.
Okay, yeah, so better than what's in spot 91 out of 105. We've still got a way to play with here. Let's see, around the halfway point, we've got Data Law, which has lurked around the halfway point for some time now, in position 51.
Oh, I am actually looking at spot number 80, which is Charlie X, which is about another individual with godlike powers.
Who, is a bit of a creep with them.
Yeah, he's less of a scamp. He's less charming about it than Riker is.
Yeah, I think this is probably better than that. With that, you've got some interesting horror-y moments of him messing with the crew, but here, the stuff on the planet, as much of a set as it is is kind of fun. And then Riker's doomed attempts to give everyone what they want. Yes, let's see. What else would we wish to compare this to?
Let's see. We've actually got the few other season 1 TNGs we do have pretty high up, because we have Heart of Glory in spot number 44.
Ah.
And then, of course, we have Data Lore in spot 51. I think Heart of Glory... I think Data Lore is better than Hide and Q.
Yeah.
Because I think they're starting to reach the point where nothing feels as awkward anymore. Like, they've kind of hit the stride where they're not just writing the character bios and giving them dialogue. We're actually starting to see, like, everyone's kind of starting to settle into their groove.
I love that you're saying they've hit their stride. Data Lore is about 3 episodes after this one. But yeah, I entirely get it from what you're saying.
You're talking to a Doctor Who fan, where the first story of Doctor Who was acknowledged as the first episode's really good, and then it's 3 episodes of dicking about with cavemen, and then we hit the Daleks, and then there's a huge up ramp. Like, it's
true.
Like, I don't, since neither of us actually work in weekly TV, we can only like posit like how this sort of process goes, and it's you learn on the job.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, that one racist one was a long time ago, so we can own that. It's only up from there.
True. Yes. So Data Lore, similarly, some good moments and some big lore things with lore, where this adds to the lore of Star Trek TNG with, solidifying Q and his role. With that in mind, like, I'm looking at IX Critus under it, which has some fun moments, but like, actually, might end up being better than that.
Like, I think IX just has some really good gags.
Yeah.
Like, you do have, like, Boimler basically quit save his way through the Borg cube to get to 100% and unlock that achievement. And then there's also Naked Time.
Oh god, yes. Okay. So yeah, under that in 53, we have another lower decks in our mid-list point with Reflections. Which, again, some fun moments, but it doesn't have as many, like, solid fun moments as IX Critus.
What is the subplot in Reflections? Like, we have the Rutherford v. Rutherford.
Yeah, so the subplot was what we watched it for, which was the archaeologists in the booth.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. No. Again.
Yeah, still,
it's still better if only for... You people keep trapping people inside of games. Stop trapping people in games. Your ships smell like ass!
Oh, dear.
Man,
okay.
It's kind of sad how, like, the most well-meaning message on God v. Man gets completely knocked down because Jack Quaid
is so good, isn't it?
Makes a line read, which is... On the subject of Jack Quaid's voice work, have you seen My Adventures with Superman yet?
I saw the first 2 episodes when they're on YouTube. I keep forgetting they're on the Channel 4 app.
It's a fun take on Superman. I think Jack Quaid really kind of nails... if you like your Clark Kent to be more kind of adorkable than mild-mannered, I think he definitely hits that stride, and I think it has one of the better Jimmy Olsen and Lois Lane uses you've got in a Superman show in recent years, so I do recommend checking it out.
Cool.
Even if at no point Superman tries to dismantle capitalism in the name of 1930 socialism.
Maybe next season.
So
we've got our Persistence of Vision, which is another one with a weird cosmic space entity, but a worse one.
Yeah. I think we've hit the point where I think Hide and Q is better.
Yeah, as enjoyable as Persistence of Vision was, it never felt like it quite landed as well as like Q's nonsense. Really. So that means that's at 54 on our big list. So next is Star Trek: The Next Generation, once again, as it turns out, a lot of Q is on there, and I was talked down from adding Picard to the docket for this one. So you're all lucky there. But yes, this is TNG Season 3, Episode 13, titled Deja Q. It aired on the 5th of February 1990, written by Richard Danis and directed by Les Landau. The UK number one hit was Sinead O'Connor with Nothing Compares to You, and the US with Michael Bolton with How Am I Supposed to Love Without You. I have completely moved on from Michael Bolton being this kind of musician, and in my mind he is just the guy that did like the Jack Sparrow song. It felt weird watching a music video of him in this where he already seems pretty old in that. But also, like,
whenever I think of Michael Bolton, I just think of the running gag in the film Office Space, where one of the other characters is called Michael Bolton.
And yeah, Sinead O'Connor's like, a classic with that. Yeah. So, yes, I am up this time. My godlike powers getting removed. And
Aha! Now I have the godlike powers.
No!
Aha! Charlie, I am going to give you a gift. Would you prefer a working back or a full head of hair?
I mean, working back.
Full head of hair it is.
Oh. I mean, I don't mind. I'm alright with a full head of hair, but yeah, working back would have been nicer. But yeah, it's alright. Yeah.
You do look quite nice. Very, I don't know why you have a mullet. Clearly my godlike powers are flawed.
Wow. Okay. We're just thinking of those 1980s music videos again.
Yup, and I am now going to put you on trial for the whole of humanity. In the second time in as many weeks, I feel.
Yeah. Seems to happen a lot.
You must recount this episode as close to 5 minutes as you ever usually get.
Thank you.
I am a jackass. I am a god now.
Right. Fine.
Q Flash.
So, the moon of Brielle 4 is out of orbit and going to crash into the planet. The Enterprise is looking into the problem as they can't just blow it up. Instead, they're going to try and push it back with the tractor beam, and even that's unlikely to work. They've got 29 hours to fix this, and oh my god, it's so tense. So, of course, this is when Q shows up. This time, however, he's naked in midair and drops to the ground, cheekily saying, "Red alert," before we hit the credits. Q is then given the ugliest jumpsuit the wardrobe department on the Enterprise has, and Picard starts blaming him for all the moon problems. Q says, oh no, the Continuum have stripped him of his powers for spreading chaos, which, fair. He came to Picard as he's the closest thing to a friend that Q has. He wants sanctuary, and he asks what to do to prove that he's mortal. Die, Worf suggests. Touche. Q's shoved towards a cell by Worf and tells him he basically identifies as a Klingon and should have picked that instead of human as a form to go to. Worf is not impressed by this at all. Picard and Riker ponder what to do about the planet because let's, put a pin in that whole Q nonsense, hopefully. After all, there's only 25 hours left, and the first attempt to shove the moon back has failed. The Briellians? I don't think I caught their name. They're starting evacuation plans. And then a bright light appears in the ship, scanning it, and goes on to a sleeping Q in his cell. Picard visits Q, who's bored and horrified by the general concept of sleep. He offers his help and his knowledge. Picard wearily assigns Data to this as the one person who literally is unable to get annoyed by Q, given the whole lack of emotions. And Q tells Data he's better off without them, without envying humans because they're rubbish. Data says, it's not really envy because he can't feel envy. He'd like to, I'd like to have feelings, but oh well, there we go. In engineering, Q looks at some plans and has a bit of backache. He freaks out as he's not had it before, and Crusher says, it's just a little bit of a back spasm. And Q's perplexed by this. Also, his suggestion about what to do with the moon is simply change the laws of gravity. Duh! LaForge reminds him they are not gods, they can't do that sort of thing. That said, Geordi also realizes they could do this in a localized manner, setting up a warp field around the moon to make it lighter and then give it a light tap back into place. In amongst all this, Q has now discovered hunger, and that's what the hurting in his stomach is. So he goes to 10 forward and orders 10 chocolate sundaes to cure his depression. And Guinan's here. She doesn't do the cat hands this time. She's just smug. She stabs him with some cutlery to test that he's human, which, would have answered things a bit earlier if the others did that. She's happy to have him have to survive on the charity of others. Up on the bridge, there's a weird shimmery life form that's been detected. It sends a shimmery thing down to Q in 10 forward, shocking him and Data when he tries to help. The life form is a calamarain. Calamarain! They have a grudge against Q for tormenting them for his past words and deeds. And Picard realizes this is why Q's here. He's done all of the fucking around, and now he's in the finding out phase. He needs safe haven from something like the Enterprise. He can't do this full time, and is going to drop Q off at a starbase. And Q says, no, he'll be able to help. He's been useful. And Data admits, yes, he has been handy so far. Q reckons he can do anything humans can. And Data says, what about interacting with humans? Data may not have emotions, but he could deliver a solid burn. Q enters the engineering department like a brand new manager, all bluster and zero competence. Everyone already knows what to do, and he just has to push buttons, which bores him, but it works! Up until the Calamarain attack, overpower the shields, and ruin everything. Q's yanked up into the air, and Data's knocked out trying to get him back to safety. Everyone's worried about Data, all apart from Q, who doesn't get any of this. If they try again, they will. Then there's going to be another Calamarain attack. And LaForge mentions, is Q really worth it? We could just give him over. Q popped into JL's office and has realised, oh shit, no one's going to miss me. Oh.
All right. Okay. As penalty, Charlie.
Yep.
Run your hand through your luscious locks one last time.
Okay.
All right. Okay. All right. Q flash.
Okay. Yeah. Q's realised, oh yeah, no one's going to miss him when he dies. He wouldn't feel bad if they died, like Data looks like he might do, but he feels shame that he feels that way. That's weird. And Picard goes, oh yes, the king who would be man. Q has a word with a recovering Data about how he's kind of a better man than Q is. Takes a shuttle out to meet the Calamarain, and Picard's like, this is easy, just beam him and the shuttle back. But they can't. Ooh. On the shuttle, another Q pops by, also wearing an ugly jumpsuit. Is this his friend? Yes. But also, he's the one who turned Q in. Turns out that Q's been watching Q, and upon seeing this selfless act, it's like, oh no, he's learnt a lesson. And if he did that and then died, that'd send a bad message. So let's give him his powers back. Q snatches up the Calamarain and threatens them while they're in his hand, but he's still being watched and lets them go. Q reappears on the bridge with a mariachi band. He's alive! Yeah! Disappointed looks from everyone on the bridge. Oh well. He gives Riker some women, he turns them down and gives them to Worf. He thanks everyone, especially Data, who he's got a present for. Just before Data's going to go, oh no thanks. It's like, no, not humanity. He's not that cruel. Instead, he gives him a genuine laugh. Isn't that nice? There's a call from the planet. Oh yeah, we forgot about them. Planet, disaster, all of that. The moon's back in place, the planet's not in danger. Picard's about to engage out of there when a cigar appears in his hand because Q had to give a little goodbye present to him. Thanks, Q.
1 minute, 56 seconds. You missed out one thing.
Go on.
This is the episode which gave us the infamous Picard facepalm GIF meme.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, it also had an actual naked John DeLancie, as apparently logistically they realised they couldn't cover him up for that scene.
have you ever had the naked at work or at school dream?
No,
No.
no. I've had like apocalyptic work dreams, but not naked ones.
I've had a lot of naked at work, naked at school. I think the worst one ever, which didn't involve nudity, was I was watching a play at school, and the play started, and everyone got on stage, and someone looked at me from the actors and said, "Miles, what are you doing? You're on in a minute."
Oh no. Oh, wonderful things, dreams.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, with that kind of thing. And yeah, the moment that I saw the weird wibbly space life form was Calamarain. It's like, oh good.
We have to.
We had to. I do like the idea that they weren't just another humanoid species, because Q, he's fucked about being a prankster in all forms for all manner of life, even if it's something like that. So yeah, that was fun. Yeah, apparently the original intent for this was that it was all a test from Q as well, and he had his powers, but Gene and I think Berman were like, no, play it straight. Especially because, again, Gene Roddenberry loves the idea of God being brought low in some form. So yeah, watching him have to go about all of this, realizing he is despised by everyone and he is horrendously mortal, with the ability to, well, the necessity to eat and sleep, and with back pain. Never has Q felt so relatable.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I think it works better than if it was just all another test from Q.
Yeah,
Because
well,
then
they all know. They're all like, oh yeah, this is just you fucking around, because he does this. This is exactly his deal. So if it was a test, if he did have his powers, that would really cheapen the fact that they spent all of it going, we know you've not really lost your powers.
did you find the masks for the aliens as weird as I did? Because they had these tiny little mouths.
Yeah.
It was just unsettling.
Like there were two that we saw kind of talking, and like the man one seemed to have a bit more going on mouth wise. For the woman, it was like they'd covered the sides of her mouth, so you could see the mouth moving, but it was all kind of, and it didn't stop her talking, but it meant that there was just this tiny mouth hole.
It looked sphincterous.
Yes, yeah, they had sphincter mouths, and that it just looked unpleasant. Like, it looked fairly make-uppy anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, it was interesting seeing them going, yeah, I guess you've got your own drama, you've got your own things. It would be nice if you fixed this, but I guess we're doing our evacuation. And of course, these days we know if the moon got out of orbit, thanks to that famous documentary Moonfall, that it would cause a lot more disasters than simply we've got 29 hours and then clonk, it hits the planet. All kinds of things are going to happen to the sea levels, all sorts of things. But yeah,
my wife really enjoys Moonfall. She loves dumb disaster movies as a general rule, and we weren't expecting this one to get as dumb as it gets in its final act.
Oh, it is joyfully dumb. And yeah, luckily they don't have a moonfall situation here. And, the moon isn't some kind of weird hollow alien AI thing. It is just a moon that's gone out of orbit. And it's interesting seeing the Enterprise called in to do disaster recovery like this as well. Because I don't think we often see this kind of, we've got to get a moon and tow it back into place sort of problems.
Like, normally they're either here after emergency, or it's stuff like, there's been a crisis, so we have to get some food supplies.
Yeah.
Not just kind of like hands-on, international rescue shit.
Yeah, there was definitely that Thunderbirdsy thing. And exactly like last episode. Oh my god, we've got a disaster. Q's here. Oh dear. Let's forget about the disaster for a while and deal with his wacky bullshit.
I feel like your summation of the episode kind of didn't infer or left out the fact that it's very much implied that Q just popped the moon back
Yeah,
in orbit as a thank you.
yeah, he did that. And good for him.
Good for him.
You know? Yeah. Especially because, he caused a lot of stress to everyone involved in going, yeah, we'll gift them life. Good for him. I guess he was kind of invested in it after all this, having to actually think and do things about saving them. So, yeah, makes sense that he'd put them back.
It's number 2 on his list. Like, number 1, give them mariachi bands and women. Number 2, maybe fix moon.
Maybe. Number 3, cigar?
Wonder if they're a Cuban.
Hey, I see what you did there.
But I did like how no one involved apart from Data has any time for Q.
Yes. Yeah, I liked the pairing of them, actually, because it's understandable no one has any time for his bullshit. So, of course, Data's the one they send. But also, yeah, that means they can actually talk. Because if it was anyone else, they would be constantly, yeah, but this is hijinks, right? We're involved in a hijinks scenario.
We are in japes.
Yeah, but Date's like, yeah, I will take this thing as it is. And yeah, why aren't you helping and being efficient if you're saying you can help with any of this? And, I will show you what hunger is like, even though I don't have it, and consuming things. Loved Guinan there. It was like, I know I've seen this at some point in the past. I couldn't remember from how the reaction was. I figured it'd be up to Cat Hands again. But I love that she's just enjoying this. And we get a few more glimpses of, there's some kind of odd cosmic stuff with her where she's kind of maybe doesn't have his powers, but is of a level knowledge-wise with him.
Do you know which part of this episode really aged poorly by 2024 standards? Q choosing to identify as an attack, pulling the attack helicopter.
Yeah.
Wharf.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pleased none of it took. And of course it didn't, because that's, Q's exact attitude there would never go down well. It's like, honestly, I'm kind of like a Klingon.
Q basically had the same attitude as every single idiot online who has used the I identify as an attack helicopter as some form of legitimate with bunny rabbit ears retort or conversation.
Yeah. As far as this goes, where on our list does it deserve to go? Now, I think I'd put this above Hiding Q. Hiding Q was good fun, but my word, like everyone being so tired of Q and his japes, Q being such a fish out of water, that was great fun. It felt like it was a good time all round, even if the people of Brielle were a little weird looking, and the kind of initiating disaster got forgotten.
Our highest Q episode is 14 with Q Who.
Yeah, which I feel deserves its spot there, given it's the introduction of the Borg, and utterly terrifying for a Q episode. Like that thing of, we're lost, we don't know where we are, the only civilization near us is an advanced race from before our time who are all dead. Like, Guidan's freaking out.
I do have a question for you.
Yes.
Even though this episode plays it very straight, do you still feel that this feels at times very much like a comedy or more of a drama?
There's definitely some bits of comedy with the fish out of waterness of Q. I think it's played
John
more
DeLancie
straight, but
being a ham.
Oh, John DeLancie! It's this week was so much fun watching John DeLancie hamming it up in all of these. Yeah, let's see. I think Q Who's better than that, between those two, we've got quite a wide thing. We got Pegasus down in number 23. Like, I don't know. It's probably a bit not necessarily in the 20s. I see we've got Iborg in 31, which also had a new arrival.
We have Elementary Dear Data in number 27.
Yes, which was a hoot. Similar to this, you got your funny elements, but also, they managed to combine the humor of the situation and the tension.
I feel that this is better than Iborg, because while Iborg is a really good episode, it does feel incredibly rushed in the latter half.
Yeah.
And whereas I feel this is a good, tight 45 minutes, gets in, it gets you through your plots, it's well written.
Okay.
And while Iborg is also well written, it just kind of fumbles because they have they get to the point right, we have to wrap this up in 5 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. So in position number 28, we have a classic favourite of ours, Crossover, one where Odo fucking explodes.
You know how I love when Odo fucking explodes.
Oh, it's great. And again, everyone's having a fun time in that.
After that, it's number 29. It's TOS's A Taste of Armageddon, which is a personal favourite.
Yeah.
Again, if only because the outfits look like weird glam rock Thunderbirds.
They are some glorious outfits. One day we ought to do a ranking of some of the alien outfits in this.
And admittedly, again, speaking as a Doctor Who fan, I love any science fiction story which is basically our main characters go to a planet which claims to be utopia. They find out in 5 minutes that actually no, this is the worst. This is the worst dystopia ever. And then spend the next 40 minutes running up and down corridors, bringing down the entirety of a civilization around it.
So, like what you kind of hope that Lift Us Where Suffering Cannot Reach would have done.
Pretty much. So I think, oh god, number 30 is Spock and Mock, which is full on hijinks.
Great hijinks. Okay, so, God, we've got a lot of good stuff here
in the 30s. Like Threshold is number 4. Okay, here we go. Is this better than Threshold?
I think it might just be. I think as much I love all of the madness of Threshold, I think John DeLancie is so good in this. Like he and Brent Spiner have some brilliant interactions. Like he and Picard don't have a massive amount, but the ones they do are very nicely done.
I think they've worked out at this point that John DeLancie and Patrick Stewart just work.
Yeah,
but they don't want to overdo it because it's that problem with improv. If you've got the wrong performer who's not given the right energy, and while Patrick Stewart has the correct energy, Picard, whenever he has to deal with Q, every single word he says has a subtext of "fuck off, Q."
Yeah, I'm going to be eloquent, but I'm also going to be very tired of this bullshit.
And I think that's why Q just didn't stick around in DS9, because in like the first 10 minutes, Sisko has already punched Q in the face and has never been seen again.
Yeah, just like, oh, he's not playing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think this is also better than Threshold.
So, given what you were saying about Iborg, does this mean this is going to be in position 31 above Iborg and Threshold?
I believe so.
Nice. Okay. And updatey listy.
Okay. Before we start our third episode, I now have to give my godlike powers back to you, which means that busty head of hair will now be gone.
Damn it! Oh no, Mel Pattern baldness, you're back.
Q Flash.
Well, so we've had our fun hijinks. Now it's time to get a bit down, a bit more somber, as we'll be covering Star Trek Voyager Season 2, Episode 18, titled Death Wish. This aired on the 19th of February 1996. The teleplay is by Michael Piller. The story by his son, Sean Piller, who pitched him this at the dinner table, by the sounds of it, and directed by James L. Conway. The hits we've discussed twice now, as we've done a lot of episodes around this cluster, with the UK having Babylon Zoo with Spaceman, and the US with Mariah Carey and Boys to Men doing One Sweet Day. One of the more mediocre kind of tracks in mourning of someone, which seemed so popular back then.
Hang on, this is 1996.
96.
96. Diana hasn't. This is before Diana, I think.
I mean, yeah, again, Candle in the Wind, also a very maudlin song, which I get, you're mourning, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, and just in case I haven't said this gag, I'm going to say the gag for a third time. Babylon Zoo, the worst Babylon 5 tribute band ever.
Hey.
Although I did find the existence of a Brighton-based Hawkwind tribute band, which has the best name ever, which is White Hawkwind.
Yes. Yeah, I was out on an evening walk and heard some very drunken pub music sounding music, and was chatting to Emma and saying, it's quite nice hearing that slightly unprofessional clattering noise where you go, these guys have been possibly paid in drinks and took them up front. I quite like that energy. And it was afterwards you sent me that White Hawkwind poster. I was like, oh, I think that was them.
Well, look, chemical inebriation is essential for any kind of Hawkwind based music.
Good for them.
Be it alcohol or excessive amounts of hallucinogenic psychotic drugs.
Yes. Yeah. So this episode, we will have had a content warning at the very start of the episode, but just a reminder, there is going to be a discussion of suicide and assisted suicide here. So feel free to stop listening, as this is our last episode of the evening. The good news is, on Spotify for podcasters, it still counts that you listened. Also, that you've not had any previous trauma dredged back up with this. That is also important too.
In the show notes, we will include a time to when we stop talking about the episode and start putting it on the list.
Yes. Yeah. So, without further ado, on that heavy note, Miles, can you make a fun and interesting, engaging 5 minutes about a person trying to end their life? But yeah, also, other Q shenanigans. I guess we'll see. So, with that, Q flash!
Voyager has found a comet, and there's a living being inside the comet. Oh no, it's a member of the Q continuum. For purposes of identification, I am going to refer to him as Quinn, which is the name he will briefly have at the end of the episode.
Zix, you love sliders.
That too.
Okay.
Sliders. It's Casual Trek ASMR, just us saying sliders. Anyway, Quinn thanks the Voyager crew for freeing him for his imprisonment, but he has to go and try and commit suicide with his omnipotent powers. It doesn't work, and instead, all the men on Voyager vanish out of existence. Oh no, Fox News was right. Proper original brand QQ turns up and accuses Quinn of sending the Voyager to the Delta Quadrant, where they're not going to be for another 100 years. Actually, says Janeway, that was on us. He had nothing to do with it. Quinn requests asylum from Janeway because Quinn was imprisoned by the Q because he got tired of immortality and living for all eternity and wanted a mortal life and wanted to die. Q is like, no, we have to imprison him because the Continuum don't want him to kill himself. Janeway's like, no, we're gonna have a proper trial about this. Yay! It's another trial episode in as many weeks again.
Wow.
And Q agrees to hold on the ruling. So if Janeway grants Quinn asylum, he and the Continuum will leave them home. Will leave them alone. Tuvok gets brought in to be lawyer on Quinn's behalf, while Q will be prosecutor. In Janeway's private time, Q was like, hey, if you let this trial go the way that me and the Continuum want, we'll actually send Voyager back to Earth, and you won't be stuck in the quadrant forever. Oh, by the way, I am just gonna flirt with you shamelessly, and it's gonna get kind of creepy. And Catherine and Janeway's like, nope, shutting down. I am shutting down this ship fic before it happens. During the trial, Quinn admits that he was a philosopher for the Continuum, but the Continuum's been just kind of stuck grinding his wheels in the new era, and he's tired of it, and he's tired of life. Q is like, hey, Quinn has done a lot of important things. He dropped an apple on Isaac Newton's head. Here's Isaac Newton to tell us. Unlike in Doctor Who, Quinn didn't accidentally get gravity renamed as Mavity. So clearly, Quinn understood the gravity of the situation. Also, Quinn helped this guy get to Woodstock and meet his future wife. Oh, and also, we're going to bring out our third surprise witness, who is Will Riker, who will have no memory of this happening to him. Sorry, Voyager crew. You're stuck out here. Riker's like, no Q shenanigans. None of this. I am done with this guy. And Q was like, actually, Quinn helped one of Riker's ancestors survive the Civil War, thus ensuring Riker will be born, thus ensuring that Riker will help protect the Federation from getting assimilated by the Borg during that whole best of both worlds nonsense. Thus proving that Quinn's value to the Continuum is important, his existence was important. It's going bad for Quinn, but he and Tuvok realize that they have an idea. So to prove to Janeway what Quinn wants, Quinn, with Q's agreement, is going to teleport the trial into the Q Continuum so they can see what life is like as the Q Continuum. It looks like a rest stop in the Deep South. There's some location filming. It looks like you got a bunch of old rednecks smoking on a corncob pipe, reading a magazine and going yup a lot. You have a variously glamorous woman reading...
Oh, interference from the Q Continuum. Oh no. Oh dear. Right. Well, let's get you exiled there now. And yeah, let's see. So start.
It looks like a desert rest stop. We have an old Q reading a book called The Old and smoking a corncob pipe, and a glamorous woman reading a magazine called The New and not smoking a corncob pipe. And they're not talking. They've had every single discussion, and that's their mortality now in the Q Continuum. Like, nothing happens, nothing changes the status quo. Life has essentially become static and meaningless. Q also used to rebel against the Continuum like Quinn, but Quinn is like, yeah, I looked up to you. I admired your willingness to bend the rules. But you, ever since you lost your powers and got made mortal and then regained your powers, you've changed, man. It used to be about the music.
Sold out.
Now you're just another corporate Q drone. And Q's like, yeah, I'm a born again Q. And Quinn is just like, but eternal boredom is just meaning. I wish to end my life, because to just keep going for the whole of eternity with this mundane boredom is just going to cheapen everything we've done. It will just make our existences like pointless. And Janeway grants him asylum, and Q begrudgingly gives Quinn what he wishes. He is now human. He is now mortal. As Chakotay and Janeway discuss what to do with Quinn, they are called to the sickbay by the doctor. Quinn has been poisoned by a rare form of hemlock for which there is no known cure, and Quinn is dying. And Quinn apologizes, said, "I'm sorry, but even if I lived the rest of my mortal life like you wanted, I would still be living a life for someone else's sake and not my own." And he dies happy. And later on, Q pops up, revealing that he gave Quinn the hemlock to fulfill his wish, and that Quinn's rebellion against the Continuum has made Q realize that he's been playing it a little too good for quite a while, and now he's been inspired to go back to making some waves in the Q Continuum. Oh, and by the way, Catherine Janeway, we will meet again. I will shamelessly and kind of creepily flirt with you, and you're stuck here for another 5 seasons. Sorry.
Wow, and that's 2 minutes and 55 seconds. Yeah, did you expect the Q Continuum to look like that?
Having that, this is one of the episodes I saw when it was broadcast on BBC Two. This time around, yes.
It feels like a theme between this and the Caretakers. The only thing they think of is this sort of, I guess it wasn't old-timey, but it's still got that feel to it.
I didn't actually think about that.
I've been reading a bunch of Stephen King in the last year or two, and it feels like what Stephen King would have as a sort of cosmic celestial plane rendered, understandable by a human.
This small town, like southern...
Like,
okay, you have the Caretaker's world, which is just more like a farm and a barn, very kind of 19th century. While this kind of feels like 1950s, or 1930s Dust Bowl.
Yeah,
like it is
definitely.
It's desolate.
And
I did like that switch to we see how the Continuum just sort of exists.
Yeah,
and it's like, again, I like when Star Trek kind of does trippy, because even though it's not always the best, there's always an interesting visualization.
Yeah. Well, like the wonderful kind of non-linearity type thing with the Emissary,
The Prophet.
and the way the prophets are. With this, it was interesting seeing the Continuum, and we've seen them punish Q in Deja Q for causing chaos. So it makes sense that they would be this slightly more stagnant kind of form. It's interesting seeing Star Trek try and advance a thing. Obviously in DS9 we've seen a lot of changes and evolution, but out of the Berman Braga sort of era things, stuff like Q you could imagine being in a holding pattern forever.
Yeah.
But actually change it going, oh no, this needs to change, is good.
What I kind of thought about this made me think, especially about how the Continuum is portrayed, is the law versus chaos dynamic in a lot of Michael Moorcock's Eternal Champion books, where the entire multiverse is kind of caught up in this struggle between the forces of order and law and the forces of chaos. But it's never that law is inherent or an order is inherently good, because too much of either essentially leads to entropy, and that what that has to be is a balance between order and chaos, and that's where the Eternal Champion resides, to ensure that the balance is maintained throughout the multiverse. And that is what I got here from the Q Continuum, is that this is entropic. Like they reached a point of Quinn keeps referring to the new era. And I'm not sure if that's meant to be of when mankind progressed into space, because it seems from his actions in the past that Qs were around and kind of just prodding stuff on Earth. for whatever
Yeah.
reason. And like, it's strange how like you see a book, the old Q with the corncob pipe is smoking, and it looks like a dusty old tome called the Old, whereas the woman who is reading the one called the New, it looks like a trendy Art Deco magazine.
So I was thinking about this with Death Wish specifically. Compared to some immortal beings which are, eternal and beyond the linearity of time, are the Q linear beings in that respect? Like, they're godlike, but it feels like they're experiencing time in a linear fashion.
They have to be like, I know we've seen Q back and forth in time,
Hmm.
and like in Picard, and there was some time shenanigans here, but the Q themselves always appear to be linear with the events going on. It's like the Time Lords in Doctor Who, in that the Time Lords exist in a same kind of linear chronology as the Doctor. Like, so when the Doctor goes back to Gallifrey, it's at his own point in his timeline at that it's like he can't progress into the past or future of Gallifrey without there being some very intense cosmic shenanigans going down.
Yeah, it makes this kind of thing quite interesting to see. And if I remember correctly, Voyager goes a bit further into how there are some schisms and things going on.
I did like how it presented the cosmic being, and we had the Q being brought down in a way, but it's not in the same kind of Roddenberry. Haha! You see that mankind has fists and punching and feelings.
Yeah, take that, God.
Yeah, no, it's not that. It's very much. It is, when you've achieved the height of your society, of your civilization, you are faced with the choice of evolve or die.
Well,
And in their own way, the Q have essentially, by not evolving, by reaching a point like, right, we have had every conversation, we have had every thought, we have probably fucked in every orifice. We have nothing left but to just choose to stagnate for the rest of eternity.
so did you ever see The Good Place?
Yes, Rhiannon and I watched A Good Place during COVID and during fucking cancer year.
And did you finish The Good Place?
We did.
So, elements of what Quinn is aiming for here feels a bit like that of going, I've experienced everything, I'm satisfied with what I've done, and the only thing left to do is end. It gave me some of that sort of feeling. I love that the act they got for Quinn, Garrett Graham, was like able to be the mistress godlike Q, but also to have this, like to be able to be affable enough to get people on his side, despite being a Q, and yeah, to cover something that could be quite a serious topic.
It's a very weighty topic.
Yeah.
It's a conversation that we're still having even today. Like, think about, because essentially Quinn is punished for wanting to die by being trapped in an asteroid for all eternity, and it made me think of a line from a Terry Pratchett book. It's one of the Johnny Maxwell books. I think it's either Johnny and the Dead or Johnny and the Bomb. One of his books for young readers.
Right.
I'm just going to quote it now, which is, "Suicide was against the law. Johnny had wondered why. It meant that if you missed, or the gas ran out, or the rope broke, you could get locked up in prison to show you that life was really very jolly and thoroughly worth living." And yeah,
that kind of, there is that awkwardness of the Q continuum going, this is too inconvenient a conversation. We can't deal with this, so we're going to lock you away forever to go, no one should question this.
yeah, they treat him not as someone who has a form of incurable disease, which is, ironically, he's immortal, and instead they treat him like he's mentally ill.
Mm.
And all that in the end that Quinn is asking for is the dignity to end at his own time and choosing.
Yeah.
It's the same with, and again, it's apt that I use a quote from a Pratchett book, considering how Terry Pratchett very much spoke in favor of the dignity of medical euthanasia and the dignity of saying, my life, I want to end my life on my own terms.
Yeah.
And I don't know, how do you feel about assisted suicide?
Yeah, it's welcome to our fun Star Trek show about wacky hijinks. I it's a difficult one. I very much understand it, and while I feel like my main attitude is that I would want to keep fighting no matter what, I also know, and I've seen kind of point where that's
Yeah.
not the case. And yeah, it's
It's the case of, at what point is keeping someone, a person, a body alive, at what point is that good for them?
hmm,
Or is it good for you for the comfort of they're still alive, we can still look after them?
yeah, and that feels like that's where the continuum has taken this. Of it's inconvenient if Quinn is allowed to go through with this. So yeah, it is that thing of, obviously you need to know, okay, this is not going to improve. And in Quinn's position, the immortality, the omnipotence, kind of makes that a definite point.
Yeah.
Really.
And it's also a situation you never want to be in.
Yeah.
Like to have to make that choice. It actually, a few weeks before this, the spouse of a friend of mine had a cardiac arrest and through medical complications had a series of strokes and aneurysms in the brain,
Yeah.
which caused, essentially, given the medical wishes of the person and the wishes of the spouse, that given that there was really nothing to kind of save, to let the body pass. And again, welcome to our super fun Star Trek episode. It is about that. And you think, like, you think about people who get horrendously paralyzed in accidents and choose to die, or whether to carry on. You look at people like Christopher Reeves, who was crippled horrendously in a horse accident and made the choice to keep on living, this to try and hopefully to try and to find a way to keep living, hopefully to walk again. And it's like you have Quinn gaining his mortality and promising Janeway that he will try and experience the human life, the rest of a human life that has been given to him. But even then, it's just like, he will still be living on for someone else's benefit. He would just have traded one person keeping him alive for their benefit over another.
Yeah. Yeah, and as utterly difficult as all of this is, like Q helping Quinn ultimately and going, oh no, this is a necessary thing. Not just for shaking up the continuum, but this is, his friend's choice ultimately.
This is a moral, obligation.
Yeah.
And it would be very way to have him like play it as. I generally, for the most part, am not a fan of Q, and it's not because of John DeLancie's character. It's the same. It's the same problem I have with like a lot of the Ferengi episodes. it just feels like we're repeating the same kind of gags, which is, we're going to have John DeLancie hammered up for 45 minutes. We'll have him have a little sparring tete-a-tete with Patrick Stewart. And, like, and while you do have some incredibly dated gender jokes and jibes at Janeway being a female captain, I feel like John DeLancie definitely feels invested in the material. That he's getting to play. You get Q in conflict with like what he was and what he kind of wants to be, and what he wants to be going forward. I think with Q, with the character, you sometimes get the case of benevolence through seeming malevolence.
Yeah.
Like when not hiding Q, Q Who, yes, he has the Enterprise encountered the Borg out of a seeming malevolence of you're not ready for what's out there. At the same time, he is giving Picard and the Federation a warning that there is something out there more powerful than you are.
Well, it's that reminder to prepare and to be aware of it and to not be confident in their own...
and not to be complacent. And
Yeah.
here you have Q assisting Quinn with his suicide, partially out of respect for Quinn's wishes, but also it's benevolence through malevolence, except the benevolence is through telling the Q, we need to break our own status quo.
Yeah.
We have become as complacent for beings of such potential and power. We have let ourselves become this.
Well, with all that,
it was nice to see Riker again, even though we've seen him twice this episode.
Yeah. I didn't realize we were going to get a Riker appearance here, but yeah, that was
apparently
nice.
They were gonna have LeVar Burton come back as Geordi LaForge, but I guess LeVar Burton had shaved his head and beard recently, so he wouldn't have looked. Ironically, Riker, Jonathan Frakes got the call because LeVar lost the beard.
Wow. Okay, well, another one that's on the pro beard column for Frakes.
I really like this episode.
Yes.
And it's not like Threshold and Tuvix were good, but sometimes, especially with Threshold, there is very much on our part irony of we find something to enjoy in the worst episode of Star Trek ever. And whereas I feel Tuvix has an interesting discussion, but kind of flubs it because, again, you don't get the time to kind of explore the entire angles of the complexities of Tuvix. While the ending feels abrupt, it feels right for the story they've been telling and the characters who the story is being told about.
Yeah. Okay. So on our big list, we've just put Deja Q in 31, above Threshold and Tuvix. So from everything you've said, are we looking above Deja Q for this? Because while we've said a lot of kind of heavy things about it, it's a show that handles it well enough that it's not a bummer.
It feels in a franchise where sometimes we really praise when it talks about issues, and sometimes can treat talking about issues in the same way as a episode of Degrassi Junior High or Grange Hill. This doesn't do that. At no point does it feel, even when we see the Q continuum, it never feels like it's trivializing the issue the story is written about. Instead, it feels like exemplifying this is why this feels so much more important in the story of Quinn's Quinn's right to life and the end thereof.
Yeah. So, look at where Deja Q is. Of course, we also have a lot of hijinks above it. And then Voyager with Drone, where Seven has a future drone son. And In the Flesh, where Chakotay infiltrates an 8472 training camp.
I am actually looking higher.
Okay.
I don't know. I am looking at number 16, our man Bashir.
Oh, I loved that.
I think it's like with Enterprise. When we've had good episodes of Enterprise, I want to put it higher up because I feel like, Enterprise and Voyager, I feel get out of the 90s era shows gets a bad rep. And I generally want to kind of accentuate the positives of two shows I lost interest in pretty quickly on first viewing. And I feel that this is also a good story with a respectful discussion of what it's about in a way that never feels trivial.
See, it is that thing of, I really love the hijinks in Our Man Bashir. But yeah, like, I get that this manages to actually handle a tricky subject with relative, dignity. Okay, above that we've got Necessary Evil, which also goes into some dark places for DS9. For early DS9 as well, a kind of surprising one where Odo goes all film noir about stuff.
It's like, this is tough because this is one of my favorite episodes of DS9. And then below Our Man Bashir at number 17 is The Conscience of the King, which is my favorite TOS episode. And
well, yeah, and I admit I've a weak spot for Our Man Bashir as a fan of daft spy stuff. So yeah, we've got some very good bits, very good things. Like above Necessary Evil in 14, we've got Q Who, where we first see the Borg, which feels like quite a legendary thing. I mean, personally, I don't know. I'm almost tempted to stick it under Necessary Evil, but above Our Man Bashir. Because Our Man Bashir and Necessary Evil are both fantastic episodes, but
in their own way.
In their own ways, which in Our Man Bashir is a lot sillier a way. But, yeah.
So, yeah, I am good with that. I do want to point out that Kate Mulgrew is great in this episode. She has a fantastic chemistry with John DeLancie.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, apparently they were both friends for quite some time before this. So
and it manages to be different from the Picard Q relationship. She's just as stern, but she's not automatically just shutting him down.
Yeah.
Like it seems to be she shuts him down when Q pushes it too far. Like she'll humor him, but then when Q is just like poking and poking and poking, that's when she's like, "No, get out, done, we're done."
Yeah, well, I think at this point, if you think about it, Q is the subject of reports. So many things that Starfleet will have knowledge of, so they all know about Q and his nonsense. And Janeway is the kind of person that would enter negotiations with Q rather than just shutting him down, but also knows don't mess about with Q. They are nothing but nonsense.
And I did like the use of Tuvok in this episode.
Yes. Yeah, and the discussion in Vulcan, of course, like Vulcan society is one that does handle kind of this sort of thing fairly well because it's logical, really. So yeah, it's good seeing Tuvok in this sort of role, and as a defender rather than a prosecution kind of role as well, because I feel that a Vulcan would normally be typecast in that sense.
Yeah, and also Vulcans, generally get typecast as being like the scientific experts. So to have him being in a because he's a security officer,
Mm.
to have him being also to have like some lawyer training on the side.
Yeah, that was quite nice. I did like the initial, Tuvok can represent me. It's like, nope, just because I'm a Vulcan, just because I'm logical, doesn't mean that I'm, going to do this.
Infallible.
Yeah, well, or a proper lawyer type person.
Yeah.
Like, he's, as you say, he's a security guy.
Yeah, whenever anyone brings up logic as like being this very superior way of looking at the universe, I always think of that fantastic line from again Doctor Who, where the Patrick Chan has the wonderful line, "Logic, my dear Zoe, merely enables one to be wrong with authority."
Yeah. And the more we've seen of Star Trek, it's been interesting seeing that Vulcans can contain multitudes, can have multiple different opinions from one another, rather than going, yes, we all agree this is the optimal logical version. It's like, no, you've got, Vulcan serial killers, you've got all sorts of things going on.
We even have Vulcan terrorists in the Marquee,
Ooh,
where like
yes.
this, it is logical that we have to pursue this course of action.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I think this actually makes it our highest ranked
Voyager
episode. Man,
Yeah.
we like the only. Let's see, we have Discovery just sneaking in like the top 25. I think we have some lower. Like I think it's only Enterprise and Picard, which hasn't. Do we have any Enterprise or Picard? Wow, we don't get any Enterprise until number 41, with not. Hang on, even above Carbon Creek.
Yeah,
Wow.
We put it above Carbon Creek.
Damn. Okay, yeah.
And both of those are above the Andorian incident, which used to be so high and is now 59 out of our currently 108 entries on the big list.
So we have let's see if any more Voyager episodes enter the top 25. That's not Bride of Chaotica.
Yes. Yeah. Which, we're saving for a treat.
Yeah.
And
so
yeah.
That was our episode. Okay. I feel we need to kind of increase our spirits.
Yes.
So on the count of 3, should we just do one more Calamarain?
Why not?
All right. 1, 2, 3. Calamarain! There we go. I feel better already.
Okay. And thanks for listening. And next time, we're going to have some problems as the ship computer's gone all wrong and the robots are rebelling. We'll be looking at some times when artificial intelligence throws a bit of a hissy fit and goes a bit weird. Aside from that, you can find us online at Casual Trek on Blue Sky and on Ko-fi, where you can throw us a little bit of money and we will make an episode all around the theme of your choice. Miles, where can people find you?
Well, they can usually find me at Dockside Bars, but
Hey,
they can find me on my blog at mareedlabato.wordpress.com. It's been a bit quiet as of late. I'm kind of I have been kind of thinking about what I want to do with the blog, because admittedly just writing reviews and just seemingly chase content trends is not kind of what I want to do with it. And with the little with what traffic I get, I want to be writing about using it for stuff I actually care about, and not just an idea that I'm just chasing the latest trend or reviewing the latest TV show. So we'll see. You can also find me on Blue Sky at Miles Reed Lobato, all one word, .bsky.social. You can find our show Blue Sky address at casualtrek.bsky.social. I am now a month Twitter free, and it is glorious.
Good work. Well done. So you can find me on faketales.com, where I recently wrote about the first 100 issues of 2000 AD. And I'll be trying to do...
You're going to be doing that for each 100 issues?
Until I get bored, I am currently partway through writing about Star-Lord, as I need a quick tangent about Star-Lord, where I can talk about Road Wars and about Mind Wars.
Okay, I thought you meant Star-Lord, the Marvel character.
No, very much.
I mean like the good Star-Lord from like the 70s, written by Steve Englehart.
No. The comic with some varied quality stories, but mostly good fun ones. You can also find me at skyshark.bsky.social, and I've lost count of how long it's been since I've been Twitter free, but definitely recommend it for anyone listening. And go do a Starfleet and try not to go mad with weird god powers.
I am going to live long and have a jelly baby. Q-Flash!
Sliders. You have been listening to Casual Trek, a Nerd and Tie podcast, presented by Charlie Etheridge Nunn and Miles Reed Labato. Music by Alfred Etheridge Nunn. Edited by the hosts and by Rhianna Reed Labato. Star Trek is owned by Paramount. Not us. Not yet.